In the previous video, we built a basic OpenAI chatbot based on the same technology as ChatGPT. In this video, we'll extend that chatbot and go even further, and we're going to give it custom abilities to take actions or do tasks in our application. This means we can add a powerful natural language interface on top of our existing application. The demo I'm showing you is based on OpenAI's Wunderlust demo. I've rebuilt it for myself, and the demo includes a map, and you get to ask the chatbot to make changes to the map, like looking at a particular city or marking a particular place on the map. This video is aimed at developers. You'll need at least familiarity with building web pages using JavaScript, HTML, and CSS to be able to follow what I'm showing you. You can see a link to the example project at the bottom of the video. We're going to skim over many technical details, so please think of this as more of an overview of how the example project works. In this video, I won't be covering the basics of building an OpenAI chatbot. We're going to be jumping straight into more advanced waters. So please watch the previous video if you want an overview of the basics. You can see a link to the previous video on the screen now. Before we look at the technical stuff, let's see what the demo looks like. The live demo is published at the URL you see on the screen, so please follow the link and try it out for yourself. The demo application has a map that is based on Leaflet and OpenStreetMap, and you can see the chatbot on the right that allows us to interact with the map using natural language. We can give commands and ask questions, and ChatGPT will take care of updating the map for us and showing us what it is that we want to see. Most of what I learned to make this demo I got from the OpenAI documentation. But I really need to give thanks to Widgeti's Python implementation of the Wunderlust example. I got to read their code, and that really helped me to figure out how to get my own code working in my own React frontend. To extend our chatbot to be able to take actions in our application, we need to go through the following steps. We need to create a bunch of functions for various actions and tasks and expose the abilities of our application. For example, if we were making an email client, we'd have the ability to create an email, add text to the email, and send the email. Next, we need to add metadata for these functions to the chatbot configuration in the OpenAI portal. And then we're going to start updating our code, and in the event loop for our chatbot, we're going to check during a conversation with the chatbot when the functions need to be called. And then we're going to call those functions and they'll do what they do and they'll return some outputs. And finally, we're going to submit those outputs to OpenAI. At this point, please feel free to grab the example code for yourself. You can find it under the Wunderlust example in my GitHub account. Download the zip file or clone the code repository to your local computer. You can see a link to the example project at the bottom of the video. The first thing we need is a set of functions that expose the capabilities of our application. How you implement your functions, it's completely up to you, and what they do is completely dependent on what it is that your app actually does. This example application, it's all about the map. So the two functions that I've added here are for interaction with that map. There's one function to update the position of the map and another function to set a marker in the map. And by the time you actually look at the real code in the code repository, I will probably have added a few more functions here. So it's important to note that these are just TypeScript functions. They're pretty close to what the JavaScript version would look like as well. So this is just regular code that I've added to my front end. After creating our functions, we need to configure them in the chatbot. So we'll go into the OpenAI portal and navigate to the assistance page. Then select the chatbot that you want to work with. You can see details of how to create these chatbots in my previous video. And then you can see here that I've added metadata for the two functions in my app. And here you can see the JSON data for the function that updates the map. Here's the JSON data for the function that updates the marker in the map. And you can add metadata for whatever other functions you want to support for your application. Now we need to actually integrate function calling into the main event loop for our chatbot. And that way ChatGPT can call our functions when it has determined that it wants to do that. So here we are in the event loop for the chatbot. This is in the front end code. And this is where we are retrieving and rendering messages that appear in the chat thread. As a part of our message processing, we need to check when ChatGPT requires an action to be taken. This means that it wants to invoke the functions that we have told it about in our configuration. Here we can see the front-end and back-end code side by side. This will make it easy to trace HTTP requests between them. In the front-end code, you can see we're looping through the list of functions that ChatGPT wants us to call. You can see here how we're calling each function in turn and keeping track of their outputs. This is where we are making a HTTP post request to the backend to submit the outputs of the function calls. Then in the backend, we are hitting the OpenAI API to tell it that these functions have been invoked and to submit the output from the functions. And this is about all there is to it. There's not much to it. Add some functions to your code, integrate them into your event loop for your chatbot, and ChatGPT now has the ability to invoke actions in your application. I have to give you a warning though. If the actions that you are exposing in your app are potentially dangerous, like sending an email or deleting something, then you're going to need to confirm the action with your user before you allow them to take it. OpenAI themselves recommend doing this, and because we don't want ChatGPT to misinterpret an instruction that is given by the user and then do something that can't be undone. Please check out the live demo for yourself. You can see the link first up on the video here. You can't really appreciate how awesome this is until you try it for yourself. Just trust me, just try it. As always, there is so much more to learn. Please check out the OpenAI docs and feel free to reach out to me if you need help. Thanks for listening.